Hi guys, today we're going to talk about absolute value. And the I can statement we're working on is, I can understand absolute value is the number's distance from zero on the number line. And for this I can statement, we're really going to focus on distance from zero. Absolute value is just a distance, and that is going to change how we think about where it is on the number line and how we describe it. Let's first talk about positive numbers. Positive numbers are greater than zero. They may be written with a positive sign, but they're usually written without it. And those are the numbers you've been learning about your entire math career so far. 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. We don't usually do this, but we could write little positive signs to describe that they're positive. But if you see a number without a positive sign, it's positive. It's to be assumed that it's positive. Now, negative numbers are less than zero, and they always have to be written with a little negative sign right in front of it. So -1, -2, -3, -4, and so on. We can graph positive and negative numbers on a number line, keeping in mind where the negatives are. The negatives go to the left, and the positives go to the right. Now notice they all start with 0, and they seem to be getting bigger as they move away. On a number line, opposites are the same distance from 0, but on different sides of 0. So, for example, -5 and +5 are opposites, because -5 is 5 units away from 0, and +5 is 5 units away from 0. Same thing with -2. -2 is 2 units away from 0, and +2 is 2 units away from 0. And we call these numbers integers. That's the set of all whole numbers, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on, all those counting numbers with 0 included, and their opposites, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, and so on. Notice integers are not decimals or fractions. They're only whole numbers and their opposites. The negative numbers are always written on the left side of 0, and the positive numbers are written on the right side of 0. 0 is neither negative nor positive. It does not have a sign. So, what does this have to do with absolute value? Let's illustrate it. If I bought a brand new car right off the lot with 0 miles on it and drove it to Cleveland. Now, Cleveland is about 250 miles away. So if I drove this car to Cleveland, my odometer would say 250 miles when I got there, because I'm going in the northern direction, and north is often considered positive versus south, which is negative. So if I drive north about 250 miles and then turn around and come back, what would my odometer say? Since I went 250 miles north and then came back south, would it say 0? No. It would probably say about 500 miles, because that's how far my car traveled. That's the distance my car went, not its location in Ohio. A number's absolute value is the distance away from 0 on the number line. So for example, the absolute value of 3, which is written with these 2 bars on either side. This statement here is read, the absolute value of 3 equals 3, because it is 1, 2, 3 units away from 0 on the number line. -3, the absolute value of -3 is still 3, because I still need to move 1, 2, 3 units from 0 to get there. The absolute value of -4 is 4. The absolute value of -1 is 1. Notice, all absolute values are positive, despite the location of the integer on the number line. The absolute value of -2 is +2. because it is 2 units away from 0. Absolute value does not simply mean change the sign of the number. The absolute value of 12 is positive 12. The absolute value of negative 5 is positive 5. The absolute value of negative 9 is positive 9. The absolute value of 21 is positive 21. And the absolute value of negative 17 is positive 17. Look at this list and these problems, and in the summary section of your notebooks, explain if the absolute value does not mean to change the sign of the number, what does the absolute value mean? What happens to the distance, or what is always true about distance when we're talking about absolute value? When we want to evaluate with absolute value, we're going to treat the absolute value symbol as if it were a set of parentheses. So, if I had the absolute value of 12 plus 13, I would first do 12 plus 13 and get the absolute value of 25. Now I need to ask myself, what is the absolute value of 25? It's 25, because positive 25 is 25 units away from 0 on a number line. The absolute value of 30 minus 12, I would first have to do 30 minus 12, and I would get the absolute value of 18. Well, how far away from 0 is 18? It's 18 units away. What if I had the absolute value of 4 minus 6? Well, using the order of operations, the absolute value symbols are treated the same way as parentheses. So I would have to do 4 minus 6, and that would give me negative 2. So now I'm looking at the absolute value of negative 2. Well, how far away from 0 is negative 2? It's 2 units away. So the absolute value of negative 2 is positive 2. I can never go I can move in a negative direction, but I can never subtract the distance that I've gone, because I've always traveled a certain distance. You can't travel a negative distance. It's impossible. Let's look at another one. The absolute value of 10 minus 16. First, I would have to do 10 minus 16, and I would get negative 6. So now I have to find the absolute value of negative 6, which is positive 6. What if the absolute value symbol isn't around the whole problem? In this case, I would still have to take care of the absolute value symbols, or what's inside of them, before I can move on with my problem. So I would need to find the absolute value of negative 14, which is positive 14, and the absolute value of 16, which is 16, and add them to get an answer of 30. Let's look at this one. The absolute value of negative 7 plus the absolute value of negative 8. Since the grouping symbols do not include the addition sign, I'm not going to add first. I need to take care of what's inside the absolute value symbols. So the absolute value of negative 7 is 7, and the absolute value of negative 8 is positive 8. Now I can add these to get an answer of 15. It's your turn. On the next slide, there are going to be several problems for you to solve. Do those problems in the work section of your notebooks. Don't forget to WSQ in your notes. You can go back and watch all of the video or any part of the video as many times as you want to. When you're done, don't forget to write a question that you or someone in the class might have about absolute value. Pause the video now so you can complete numbers 1 through 5. Then you are done.